I've been asked quite a lot about dinghies. Why did we select this size of dinghy? And for a while I also thought this is a too heavy dinghy, but some of my yachty friends actually convinced me that this is not a bad dinghy, and I actually tested it and I realized that it is actually good. So we're going to talk about the size of the dinghy, the weight of the dinghy, like do you want this, and then also the size of the engine. What is the size of engine that you require, and whether you want to have a hand steer one or a center console one. I'm also going to cover a little bit about Davit system. So this is a jerry-rig Davit system that I've done here, and also about other Davits like what the Leopard is using, and some safety mechanisms of the Davit, and also how I tie Tipex and secure it for passages.
Feel the spray of the waves on my face. Atlantic, Indian, ocean blue. Whoa, land in sight to starboard. Got me home from where I roam.
Let's talk about length. So we want Tipex to be long enough to actually go between the super scoops. As you can see. Yes, I also didn't like it. Our trusty fluffy mic, the wire just got eaten up and this whole thing is eroded. So it doesn't make contact anymore because of salt. So our little GoPro is now not happy with this thing on. So it was normally like that. And now this one is not working anymore because this line is just, oh man, and corroded. So now it's going to be like this, and there's a wind. It's not that very good in the wind, but we will try. Okay, as for the size of Tipex, the length, and also the space inside, we wanted enough space that we can put either our dive cylinders here, and also maybe like groceries, not the two at the same time, of course not, but we can now put lots of groceries and also space for dive cylinders. And on the pontoons we can sit easily 4 people, so we can sit one there, and you can even sit on the bench, and you can even sit there. So it's a lot of people that you can also carry. So if we do need to bring in some guests, then we will be able to do that. So the length of, another issue about the length was that it has to be long enough or big enough that we can have some people sitting here, like 4 adults, as well as then space for dive equipment. And this is where this hard bottom is making it quite nice. Another thing about length is that the dinghy should be able to fit in between sugar scoops, if you have sugar scoops. So if you look here, the big bow is a little bit further away, hanging from the davits, so this will land on the sugar scoops, unless you have a davit system that comes out like this. So the davit was against that one, and it actually folded out as we release the winch. So if you have a Davit system like this, then it doesn't matter, because it actually takes Tipex and lower Tipex a little bit further away from the sugar scoops. We have not extended it 100%, but you can already see it makes a huge difference just to have that little bit of clearance away. The weight. Of course, all of this nice fiberglass here makes it quite heavy, and in the beginning it was for us not a nice thing, because if you do go to the beach, you need to drag Tipex onto the beach away from the surf, and if it was like one night we came back, it was suddenly low tide, not suddenly, like 6 hours later, and then Tippex was like 10 meters away from the beach, and it was very difficult for us to actually drag Tippex all the way into the surf and then be able to start it, because we were now very tired. It was dark, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, so and all the stuff that goes along with returning at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Tippex run. So we thought it is not a good idea to have a very heavy dinghy, and we were looking actually at lighter dinghies. But as we start researching and talking to people, we actually learned that a heavier dinghy is actually not that bad. So a heavier dinghy, the advantage of having a heavier dinghy is that you can actually go in much more choppier water than with, I think the sun is now not right, so let me do it like this. The advantage of having a little bit of a more heavier dinghy is that you can go in much more choppier water. So the choppier water will not, the buoyancy of Tippex is of such now that we will actually, with the V, we've got a V-shape hull, it will actually go into the choppiness, not like waves and swells like that, but the little chop doesn't let us bounce up and down, up and down. So our ride is much more smoother through the choppy waters. And Brent from Catamaran Impi, they actually looked at the OC tender, and besides the heavy price that you pay for OC tender, they are beautiful and they are super light, and they don't have these pontoons that can puncture or break or something like that, which makes it very nice. But it is super buoyant, and because they are so super buoyant, guys with OC tenders will have a very difficult time, if not impossible time, to go to the outer atolls. So if you want to go out to that outside atolls and quite far away, and it is very choppy, then it's going to be a problem. I don't say you cannot do it. It will be very difficult to do that. We've driven now on a small tender, and we've found the same, that small tender, it's very light, very nice, but we had a very choppy, hard ride, and you like hitting the waves quite hard. While with Tippex, you hit a wave, but it's almost like there's a softer impact as the V bow with the heavy weight is going into the wave and then bounce out. So just have a look at that. It is nice to have a light tender, but if you're always going to be close to nice beaches and not going to like ocean kind of thing where there's a break and a little bit surf, or even like us when we anchored here, now we're in a protected area, but many times we are not in a protected area, and then that choppiness is making for an interesting ride. I cannot imagine if Tippex was much more buoyant, whether we will have a comfortable ride back to Sisu. Another thing about the weight that you need to consider is your Davit systems. So if your Davit system cannot handle heavy dinghies, of course you have no choice. You have to go for a lighter dinghy. So make sure your Davit system that you have on your boat, and some manuals is using the main halyard or some spinnaker halyard or some halyard to actually lift it up, which is then okay, because you can just use the slow winch or the torque winch and you can bring it up. But for us who has electric Davit system, we need to make sure that Davit system will be able to lift the picks up. So your Davit system, look at the rating of your Davit system, and not just buy a dinghy then that will just fit there. Remember, you've got also an engine. So with our Davit system, we can actually raise Tippex with the engine and it will still be fine. There's another thing that you need to keep in mind, that the Davit system must sometimes lift groceries. If it's very hectic and you cannot lift the groceries up, we sometimes keep the groceries inside and then lift it with the groceries up, so that we are much safer taking the groceries out of Tipex. Then the other thing is, if you looked at our stainless steel, I sometimes climb up on Tipex and then climb up there to actually reach the stainless steel there. So if you have an arch and you need to get there, sometimes you need to also climb onto Tipex while it's on the Davit system and clean it, which might be while you're on passage. So don't do it on passage if you know you're actually overstretching your Davit system. Let's talk about engine size. So we selected a 20 horsepower, also because it has to take this heavy dinghy with dive cylinders be able to go to some place. So it has to be able to push Tipex out of the water and start planing. Otherwise you can go, but you can go slow as well. But you will just use a lot of fuel if you go all the time full throttle, and you need to be able to get to your destination and back in time. So that was one of the issues that we had. We need to make sure that our engine size is big enough for us to be on Tipex, as well as groceries or dive cylinders or passengers. So that is one issue that you need to consider. Then what I also thinking of is, if you have a lighter engine, smaller engine, this is a 20 horsepower engine. If you have a lighter, smaller engine, it uses less fuel. I can honestly not tell you what is the fuel, how much fuel we're using. We just have this fuel tank. And this fuel tank is then filled up, and when it runs empty, I just fill it. And we have also on Sisu, we have also some spare fuel for the outboard, and well, I cannot tell you how much it will be. We also have these planing fins, these big fins. Normally they are just that little gray area over there, and this just increased the fin of the engine a lot. So I'm not sure what you call it. I call it a planing fin, because this fin is actually making sure that Tipex is planing much faster. With these planing fins, even me, when I'm alone on Tipex, Tipex normally before the planing fins will go like this, and you need to like sit in front, scoot up as far as possible, and then it slowly starts. So it takes a long while before it planes. With these planing fins, Tipex go like, it doesn't even lift the nose up. It just like goes into a plane, just almost like that, and you're planing. So you plane much faster. And the reason why you want to plane is also to save fuel. You go faster, of course, but also you're saving a lot of fuel, because the moment you get out of your bow wake, then you actually start saving fuel immediately. You also overcome the hull speed distance or the length of the boat is determining your hull speed. So, but the moment you start planing, that doesn't matter anymore. So you're not a displacement vehicle or vessel anymore. You are now a planing vehicle and vessel, and that's why you will start saving fuel, and you can go faster than hull speed. With regards to hull speed, I will do an episode on hull speed very soon. How the Catamaran, the latest models, is getting faster than hull speed. And it's not just the Catamarans, it's also the monohulls, they do the same. What I also did is I bolted the engine to the dinghy. It's not a very secure thing, but at least I know that if someone wants to steal the engine off, they need to have a grinder as well. And I purposefully let that bolt rust, so it will also be very difficult to remove that bolt. And on that side is another one, also another bolt through, that actually takes the engine. There's two things about the bolt as well. So not only is the little flippy things that you see going to secure the engine, but if they for some reason start to unscrew, the engine is then still bolted very securely to the boat. So it is just for me another way of making sure that the engine doesn't come accidentally off. Engine, another thing about the engine is whether you want to have 4-stroke or 2-stroke. 2-stroke is generally much more powerful for the size than a 4-stroke. A 4-stroke is generally much more softer and less vibration than a 2-stroke. A 2-stroke also needs some oil in the fuel pre-mixed, so you always need to carry some oil, while a 4-stroke don't need that. We have an oil dipstick and you just need to check that, and it's kind of like lubricating using the internal oil. So you don't need to try and lubricate you don't need to use fuel mixed with oil or oil inside the fuel pre-mixed. And then I've heard something, I'm not sure whether it's true, but in certain countries you're not even allowed to have 2-stroke engines anymore, especially like if you're in a marine environment or marina or a nature reserve or marina reserve, then that's not allowed and you can get fined. We've not yet come across that someone asks us, do we have a 4-stroke or a 2-stroke? But I've heard that some of the countries is now starting to do away with 2-stroke outboards. So I think 2-stroke jet skis might also be out. Don't know. If you do know, why don't you comment below and tell us whether your country has banned 2-stroke outboard engines or inboard or jet skis. Please comment below. Some dinghies have open transoms, others have holes that you can drain, like Tipex have these holes here. So if you look here, you will see below this little ball bearing or a ping pong ball that's supposed to block the holes, and that side's also one, and it's supposed to block these drain holes. But what happens is the ping pong ball doesn't block it immediately, and the water will run into Tipex, and the bottom will get flooded, or not really flooded, but there will be water inside the boat. It's not a train smash, but we found that if we put grocery bags, especially the nice eco-friendly bags, which is a paper bag, or any boxes, cartons or things like that, like milk cartons, the bottoms will then get wet and it will break when you try to lift it up. So a wet dinghy is not the best idea, and if you have an open transom at the back, you have to keep that in mind, that it will get wet inside, and it's not always a good thing to get wet. The idea that Infanta was using here was actually quite good. It's supposed to block the water that's coming in, but if we do get water, like a wave coming over, or when it's raining, or when we wash Sisu, then the water will run out automatically, which is a good idea, but I think the ping pong balls don't go as fast as they thought it will go into and block the holes. So just something to think about. With regards to those holes, you can see there's always water coming in and out. Now, it does make that Tipex is almost always wet inside. Like here, this is water, and your feet is always wet. So, and also stuff is lying on the floor. But as you can see, last night we had a serious windstorm, and while we had anchorage, and we couldn't really select our place of anchorage, and it was close to a beach because we wanted to have a nice sandy bottom. But the problem with a sandy bottom is all of the sand is then blowing into onto the boat and into Tipex and everywhere. But the advantage of having these holes now is I can just spray, wash Tipex out, and the water will run out. So I don't need to have a bucket and stuff like that. I can just use a normal hose pipe and just hose all the sand out, and then it will just wash out of those holes. Depends on which one is the lowest. Also, if you do start the engine and you go fast that way, then it also drains naturally. Pontoon size is actually something that people not easily look at. But pontoon size is actually important. If we have a lot of choppy seas, then the water is tending to splash over. But with the big pontoons, it is far less than with the narrow pontoons. The narrow pontoons, the water splash quite often over. And here, the pontoon's almost like a natural scoop to take the waves away from people sitting in a dinghy. But so the pontoon size is also a very big factor. So if a small pontoon, you can go faster, it's lighter, it's easier to handle and all of those things, but it cannot handle choppy waters that nicely. With this big nice pontoons that we have here, we can actually comfortable go quite fast in choppy water, and the water will splash away from us and not over and into the dinghy. Tying Tipex. So first I'm putting almost like a spring line, but this one is more to keep Tipex close to Sisu, so that Tipex is not swinging like this in and out. And I do it with basically the mooring line. So the mooring line is coming through here and also then tied to this. So I've got one tied there, and it goes all around there, and then it's tied off to those back cleats there. Then to prevent Tipex of going like this, I've got the spring line here tied to the back there, and it depends on how high Tipex is. But here is one also going to the front of the bow. You can see it's running from there all the way to that cleat. So I'm trying to prevent Tipex to do this, and also prevent it to swing out like that. And this is how I tie. And there is a problem with inflatables. So as this pontoon is deflating during the night, it's getting very saggy, and then here where we actually pull Tipex closer, it will start doing this if it's getting deflated. So there's nothing much that you can do about it other than try to pull it more tighter. But then if the sun, like now, if the sun is starting to shine on Tipex, the pontoons is expanding, the air inside is expanding, and this one here will also expand, causing then these lines to be very, very, very tight. So it's a compromise on that one. This latch is like that. So for me, I put the engine on a side where there's a latch that can support if the thing goes awry, and the lighter side here on this side doesn't have any latches. That's the first thing about the security. Then, so it is adjustable when we are sailing long passages and we know that we're going to go through some serious weather or possible weather. Then I make this as short as possible, and Tipex is in as high as possible. But if we say, for example, this is the marina over there, if we're going to be here and we're going to dinghy in and out most of the time, I try to lift Tipex up every night, and then we don't want it to be this high. We actually want Tipex to be pretty low, so we actually, the Davit system here can easily go up and down, and as you can see from here to there is now a very short space. So if this whole thing goes down and there's a little bit swell like there is now, then we might bump our head against the Davit system itself. So then this way we can extend the lines. Let me show you. So this is a 1-4 purchase, so for me it is very easy now to drop it. So you can just release it, drop it, and from here just release it and we can drop it. And if you want to stop it, you just pull one little bit in and it will stop. This is a 1-4 purchase, so we have one line here and here is 4 lines going up. So I have to pull once here, and this final strength here is 4 times the power that I'm using here. 1-4 purchase. So you must have one that has a double block here, and then over here is also a double block but with a little thingy at the side where you can make a bowline. So you rig it through the claws there, it goes all the way on the outside, and then again on that middle one, and then it comes down here in the middle, a small one, and it goes up and you have the bowline there. To release is very easy. You need to lift this line higher than that jaws, and like that. So look again, and now it's higher, so now it is running from the top. And if you want to lock it, you just pull and it locks. The reason why I have a system like this is, if we are on passage, I want the picks to be very high, so that if we look here, if you can see here, we are very high, so no wave can actually hit the picks, and also the waves that's coming from the back, even if they are very high, will rarely be able to hit the picks. But I've got it slanted like that for a few reasons, and while we're here, if we do have a big wave pushing on and want to poop on us here from the back, then what will happen is the picks will flip over like that, and maybe I will damage here, but I will not damage those big windows over there. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is, if it rains here, or if the water come in or whatever, even if we just clean, then the water will all run from this side and then rush out of that hole over there. So this point is higher, and that point is also lifted a little bit higher. So if you look from here, you will see the bow is higher than the stern, and if you look from here, you will see the outside is higher than the inside. This is Tippex in island mode, or in, let's go to shore quite often mode. You can see it's much lower now than when we are in passage mode. So these lines here, it's much longer in this mode than in passage mode. So island mode is long lines, and passage mode, then this one will be very short. This is a little jaw. You can look at that. It's a little jaw that can easily be, if I lift the line higher and pull, I can pull it out, and this jaws will open and the line will run then on top through that one there. But because of that, I'm trying to tie it as shallow as possible, and also tie it here. So if by accident or some strange reason this line might jump up, then it will be automatically pulled down because it was tied off here. And the same on this side. So I have the lines tied there, and also running at an angle that if for something happen, this line go up, it will just go down a little bit and not all the way. We changed to this kind of quick release mechanism, and it is very easy just to pull a line and it is released. The only thing is with quick release mechanisms, or with any of these shackles, is you need to be able to put it in and get your fingers in before the boat is doing all sorts of things. by just holding onto this. So if I'm holding onto this, you can see my hand can actually warn me before the time that that thing is going to go taut, and then you are in trouble. Quite a shock. So that's how easy it is to quick release it. And there's the other one. So we just need to pull this little line, and sometimes this line is getting into the wrong side, as you can see. Then you need to get your fingers inside there, which is dangerous, especially in the swell. And you just can do the quick release like that. At first I was using these ones that has a little spring that you can pull, and if you pull it, it opens like that. So you can see the pin there. If you pull it, it opens up like that. But what happened was, this pin has a little edge here, and it will hook onto the line like this, and then goes into the line, and either they rip the line or bend this safety ring so much that it always will hook onto everything that's there. And when that happens, when it is bent, it is not cool. Then also what happens, if it is like now, you can see we're jumping quite up and down, the line can actually bend this ring so much that it pulls out of here, and when it pulls out of there, this thing jumps out and you lose it. And after replacing a couple of these, I decided to actually go for the alternative. The alternative, these ones are the alternatives. There's nothing that can coat on to our mooring lines or to the sides or anything, or clothing or stuff like that. So it is a very simple one to open, and you just need to pull it, and it opens by itself. So it's very simple mechanism like that, and when you pull it, it opens up. I've heard the guys are using this to trigger a spinnaker pole or something like that. I don't know what they use it for, but for me, I think it's a good idea because I can just pull it and it opens up very easily. So you just pull this line here and it goes open. So this is my fastener mechanism to actually get it into the shackles. It's very simple. You do it like that. Try not to get your fingers inside there, because if a swell comes, like you will see, if the swell comes, it can definitely hurt you, or if not, break your fingers. So like that, you see. So it is a little bit violent at times, so we don't want to get your fingers inside there. So for me, it's very easy. You just take the little line like this, pull it, and it's loose. I also try to mark them to know which one is the longest and the shortest. And the way I've done it is to say this one with the long thing here, long braid, is the longer one, and the shortish one with the short braid is then of course the short one. So I always make then that the longest one is on Sisu's side, and that way I know that the angle of the pegs will always be correct. Okay, let's discuss some dinghy anchors. You can see we have a couple of anchors lying here. So this is the normal dinghy anchor. It is very compact and kind of like safe to store and all of these things. And it has this mechanism that you just turn, and then these things will fall open, and you need to take it down, turn again at the bottom, and then when you turn it at the bottom, it has all of these hooky things that you can hook, or not you, the anchor will hook onto something. I call it an umbrella. I don't know what else to call it. So, but this is a standard dinghy anchor. So we used this one for a while, and this one is like I think a 1.5 kilogram or something like that, and it did not hold. So many times we'll anchor and the pegs will just drag it. So we learned our lesson. We need a very strong dinghy anchor. So we got this one. So this one is the same principle, it's just much bigger, and up till now we have not dragged yet. So it's just the same, exactly the same one, but now much bigger and much heavier. And this one is a 3.5 kilogram. So this one we feel that we are feeling much more comfortable, and we can use this one quite often. But we also have one like this, a small Danforth anchor, whatever you want to call it. But so it goes like this into the sand and then starts digging. As it starts digging, it goes like this, and then you can rest assured that it digs itself into the sand. For that, you need to make sure that your rod and scope and everything like that is again good. It's because the moment you lift it out of the sand, just this little angle, like from there to there, then you will start getting lift off. So basically this angle that you have, if Tipex starts pulling it a little bit more, it lifts out of the sand and you don't have an anchor anymore. But we have these two anchors. The reason why we have two anchors, I'll explain to you much more in graphics, is that we can have now two anchor spots. And we can actually anchor Tipex quite outside of the beach. And then with a long floating line that we have like here, we can actually, there's so much water in Tipex, I can actually use an anchor inside to anchor myself. That we can use this line, and it's a floating line. So this floating line it's about 200 meters. We take that between the two anchor spots, and we tie Tipex in the middle. And then, if we want to go to the beach, we just pull Tipex to the beach where the other anchor is, and then when we want to go away, we just pull with the circular loop, pull Tipex closer to this anchor point, and then Tipex is in the middle of the two anchor points and away from the beach. So we can then go, and when we come back, we just start reeling Tipex in again between the two anchor points, and we have Tipex back again. So that is why we have two anchors. We've done it once and everything got entangled. It didn't work well. But we didn't use the anchors. We used the like a mooring balls, but it was not mooring balls. It was just more like a path. And Tipex went over the lines and got entangled, and we couldn't bring it in because one of the boys was pulling. The boy was like that, and the bow came like, and the line was going underneath. So I had to swim. It was very cold, very late at night. I had to swim out and untangle, so that didn't work. But we would like to know, how do people anchor on the beach and not having to drag the dinghy onto the beach? So there's a loop system, and we don't know exactly how it works. So we tried, and it didn't work, but we are going to try it. So please comment down below if you know how to do that, and we will then try it out for you and show whether it's working or not. Dinghy lights. Dinghy lights are very important. So this one is an all-round white. So we just like a suction cup, we suck it, and it can actually suck to many surfaces. And this one just shows that we are moving in any direction. So it's a small vessel, we can use this anchor light, but I've seen many other people using a tricolor, which we also have on Sisu. And here it is. So this light has 3 sectors, and so it has a white sector and a red and a green sector. And there you go, now you can see. So this is port side, starboard side, and stern side. So So this is another one, but the suction cup on this one is not so good. It does have a GoPro setting here, a GoPro thing, which is nice, so we can maybe use the GoPro clamps and suction cups from the GoPro and then use it from there. It has different modes. Look, you can just strange but true. So some countries have different regulations, and up till now we just want to show people that we are a little boat moving, and don't overrun us with your big boat if you don't have lights. So it's always good. If we're with Sisu, we would like to see a dinghy with a light. Then we can actually miss you. So if you don't have a little light like this on your boat, this 20-ton boat will overrun you and we will not even know you were there. So please use your dinghy light and let us know where you are. Let's discuss the thing about the center console, or where you want to have the thing that goes like a motorbike. A center console for me, the short and sweet for me is that it is a waste of space, it's a waste of weight, and it is only for the pilot that's sitting in the middle of the boat very comfortable. If you want to have more people sitting in a boat, their knees is cramped up. If you want to put groceries in a boat, there's not enough space. You need to put it where other people are supposed to sit. So you only have an advantage of a center console for the pilot, for the guy that's actually sitting at the helm. Yes, some of them have a nice little seat in front. It's fine, but that's basically just for two people. So if you're never going to have lots of guests on board, if you don't have grocery runs, if you don't have scuba gear and stuff like that, then I agree, you can have a center console. But even then, my personally think I will not take it. That's just my take on it. And if you want to know about our nice colorful dinghy chaps, Pietro is busy working on a video for the dinghy chaps.
Yes, that is to come.
It will try to dig in and oh my goodness, I think I'm floating away. I need to get back. Okay, so something tells me my bowline did not work that well, so maybe a bowline is not a good idea to fasten a dinghy. Okay, I'm back at Sisu, and you guys didn't even tell me that I'm busy drifting away. I just saw the beach coming closer and I was wondering what the hell is happening there. I was here with anchors.